Greetings, friends. This is Jon Queen, Chartered Financial Analyst, Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst, and Realtor with the Queen team at Coldwell Banker Realty in Colorado, here to talk about something that Colorado home buyers know all about, and it's a common question, and that is Colorado's shifting soils and what to look for when you're visiting a new house for potential foundation issues or structural problems. But first, as always, if you enjoy the content, please hit like, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you can follow us for more content on investing in real estate or buying and selling homes or market data. Now, a common feature of Colorado's landscape is the fact that we've got expanding and contracting soils. So what that means is that, we're on a bit of a desert, and so during hot periods, the sandy soil expands, and in colder periods it contracts. That can cause foundation settlement issues, and it can cause stress on the cracks on the walls. In addition to the sandy soil feature, which can cause settlement issues, it can all be exacerbated by the fact that we have all these temperature differentials. Typically, below ground, the exterior of your walls are around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The interior of your basement walls can be a varying temperature depending on how you heat or cool your home inside. So it can be a different temperature than the exterior of those walls. While above ground, the same thing. You can have temperatures ranging from negative 20 or 30 degrees on a very cold day up to over 100 degrees on a very hot day. And on the inside of your house, it's going to have a differential temperature on the inside feature of the walls than the outside, depending on how you heat or cool your home. So all these factors can cause cracks in your walls. It can cause structural kind of weaknesses over a period of years that you need to be careful about. And so let's go through it. When you enter a new home, some things that you want to look for structurally is are there any cracks on the inside of the walls or on the outside of the walls? If you see cracks on the inside that match the outside of the wall, for instance, along the ground level or along an above ground wall, and those cracks are wide, that's one sign that you may want to seriously have your inspector focus on those areas, and you may want to pass on buying that home if the inspector says, look, these look very serious, because structural damage to your home to fix is quite expensive. It ranks up there with some of the most expensive repairs you can do. Another thing to look for when you're walking around and looking at a new home is, does it look like there's any water or evidence of water settling around the baseline of the property outside? That can cause, due to the shifting soils, causing things to maybe shift from when the builder first built the property, and now you have these little pockets where water can gather and stay, and those can eventually go through your walls and over time create some leakages or weakness to the walls or some water damage. You want to be looking for that. And then again, that's going to be typically along the baseline of the home. You also want to check, obviously, to see along where your gutter lines are and where your downspouts are. If there's any blockage there, this causes things to kind of build up, and that water also can then over time get into your wall and cause either some cracks or some damage along the wall. In your basement, a lot of basements in Colorado are built on a floating slab basis, or they're drilled into caissons, depending on where you are. But the builders would typically build homes now based on the assumption that Colorado's soils are going to expand and contract. So they plan for this. So the question is, how well did their plan hold up in reality? And the way to check for that is when you're walking around in your basement or in other parts of the house that you're looking at, check for, again, cracks in the walls. Sometimes that can be on the lower level near where the floor would be. Maybe you see that the floor level has changed, where the paint mark is 1 or 2 inches higher from where the basement is now because the basement has settled a little bit. Maybe you'll see cracks or evidence of cracks being painted over in the basement. And the question is, how serious are those? Whenever you're looking at cracks on a property, obviously you want to defer to the judgment of a professional inspector, and I'm a realtor, not an inspector, but just a rule of thumb when you're walking around as a layman, take a penny and compare that penny to the cracks you see in the home. If the crack is wider than the penny, or if it's showing some variation in width where it gets wider or narrower, that is a sign that you have got a more serious potential issue there. If you just have a few cracks and they're narrower than a penny, then potentially it's something that just has happened over time and it's not necessarily indicative of a serious structural issue. It just is, part of the life we live here in Colorado, with things shifting a little bit over time, but it's not necessarily going to be a huge CapEx expense for you down the line to fix some major issue. Another thing to look at is cracks along doorways or windows. If you see cracks around your doorways or windows, again, that could be a potential sign of the home settling in a different way. And the way you check there is a little different than the penny rule. You would check that by opening and closing the window and door and just seeing how easy it opens and closes. If it opens and closes easily, then it's potentially, and again, you defer to an inspector's professional judgment, but it's potentially not as serious an issue as when you're opening and closing the door or window and it just doesn't fit right in the frame. Because believe me, when the builder built those windows or doors originally, it fit perfectly. So if something is not in line now, potentially it could be that it's due to some sort of a shift and some sort of a structural change in the home that you'd want to be aware of and have your eye on before you finally closed on the house. Another thing to look at is in the garage. Usually you have a series of concrete slabs there sitting floating. If those slabs are far out of line with the garage walls and you see cracks along the garage walls, that's also something to bring to the attention of your inspector, because you're seeing right in plain view what the level soil is looking like and what the foundation's looking like, almost as if you were in the basement. So that's another thing to take a look at, and obviously also look at any signs of water damage that might have collected in that area. So having said that, those are a few things to look at to save yourself potentially some time and headache as a future home buyer when you're visiting homes. Like Colorado has expanding soils. This is the reason why in-ground pools are not as popular here and above-ground jacuzzis are. But having said that, homes shift over time. If you see these cracks or damage in a newer home that's been built in the last couple of years, that's obviously more serious potentially than something that's 50 or 60 years old and you see these hairline cracks, because it shouldn't be cracking that fast in a newer home. So having said all that, good luck in your home search. If you have any questions, feel free to contact Violetta and I in the details below. You can contact us always at queenteam@coloradohomes.com. Take care and have a great day.